Hey, True Believers England teen here with Jay. Valiant Jay, you have changed your name into, I see.
Yes, I have.
Liking
as long
those
as I'm on
Valiant...
this, I'm loving it. Yeah, loving them.
Cool. So far, what has you've been reading 90s Valiant? What has stood out? What's made you the biggest fan?
Eternal Warrior, without a doubt. EXO is a close second. I've always loved Turok, but yeah, Eternal Warrior really grabbed me.
Yeah,
Love
those early 90s are pretty good. They really are. I particularly like Archer and Armstrong. I like the humor in it.
Can't wait to read that. Yeah, because I liked them when they've crossed over, and I love the whole Annie Potter brothers, the three brothers, how they all have their own space, their own place in the Valiant universe. It's really cool.
Yeah. Now tonight we were gonna do Jeopardy. I sent out a message. Jay responded, so I figure, okay, let's do. We'll at least do some topics, and we'll set something up where we can get a game together, maybe off the offline, and then we'll just post it as a video. That being said, there have been a couple of topics that has piqued my interest. One of them I wanted to get to. It was brought to my attention just a few days ago, and it is based on something Tom Brevoort said about the X-Men. And what gets me, and it's one of those things where I don't know, maybe I'm kind of full of myself on this one, but it said everybody is wrong except for me thing when it comes to the X-Men. Every time I hear, especially somebody my age like Tom Brevoort, you know, we're around the same age and everything, and he's been reading. He read the Claremonts when they came off the shelf, the Claremont Burns, same as me. And it just seems like so many people who are involved in creating the X-Men nowadays just don't understand what the X-Men are. And Tom Brevoort shows that. We're going to get to the thumbnail in just a little bit. That's going to be the heavy stream right there. That's going to be the heavy flow. We're going to deal with Gal Gadot and Wonder Woman. But I wanted to get to this one right here as well. Tom Brevoort, Marvel Comics exec Tom Brevoort pushes back after fans hope new X-Men event ditches ideology-driven storytelling, claims team is rooted in the message. And yeah, I got to say, as much as I'm very blah on the critical drinker, he does start that, and I can't say the message without hearing the echo.
Yep.
Yeah. The message. Yeah, so he did start this. Now this is from Christmas, so it is in internet terms, it's about 100 years old. But I figured, what the heck, I'm late on a lot of stuff, so let's get this going. So it says, in dashing the hopes of many X fans, Marvel Comics exec Tom Brevoort has pushed back against those who voiced concern that the publisher's newly announced next X-Men event would see the team further subjected to the publisher's current ideology, character subversion driven editorial direction, by claiming that the Merry Band of Mutants has always been rooted in the message. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. Okay, so this kind of stems from a big ass mistake that a lot of the SJWs made, and I'm going SJW because, you know, woke came after. We were calling them SJW or the woke, whatever, but we were calling them SJW first. And all of a sudden, well, SJW is a good thing because that means you're for social justice, and that's a good thing. And they just take it to mean you don't want hatred towards people, which is bullshit. SJW woke the whole night. The message is you must put immutable characteristics first. That's the message. The message is that the nuclear family doesn't count for anything. The message is that it's okay to violate children in the name of identity. That's not what the X-Men stood for. Hey, Dalton, how's it going?
Hello.
I kind of figure you might want to get involved in this one because we're going to go into some deep subjects. I'm going to, I want to highlight this because this is very important. The X-Men were popular in the past because they stood for everyone who felt a little out of place when they were
everyone
young,
who was the outsider, the freak, the weirdo, the nerd.
Everybody felt that way as a teenager, and that's why they resonated with everybody. They were about everyone. But you freaking identitarian idiots have to put them in a box. You put everyone in a box, and it's ridiculous.
And here's the actual in-universe reason why putting them in a box doesn't make any freaking sense. Because if they were about group identity, you would think they would have mutations in common, but they don't. Everyone gets their own individual mutation. Despite the fact that we call it the X gene, based on the variety of powers and physical morphologies on display in the X-Men, everyone has a different kind of mutation. Which, side note, is why Magneto probably should be advocating for some kind of arms race for the strongest of mutants to survive beyond all the rest. But, you know, that's a different story.
There was somebody in the 90s who did that, like Exodus or somebody like that. I thought there was somebody who believed in that. I know Apocalypse. Didn't he believe in the evolution of the strongest mutants or something?
Well, yeah, to an extent. But what I'm talking about, you would almost need to do like an X-rated book for, because anyone who knows anything about like evolutionary biology knows the best way to propagate a mutation is by screwing.
Yeah.
So, in
that,
theory, Magneto should be advocating for there to be a arms race as to which mutant can bed the most people. But, you know.
With that happy thought, officially revealed by Marvel on December 20th, the aptly titled X-Men from the Ashes event will serve as the follow-up to the current ongoing Fall of X. See the X-Men titles reborn. I read that first book. I haven't been following the X-Men. I have very little urge to follow new books at all nowadays, but yeah, very much not that one. However, outside of this brief tease of a line-wide reboot and logo featuring the 90s version of the team's logo, the publisher did not offer any additional information regarding the event. So basically the 90s logo, it's just trying to get to the nostalgia factor. Is anybody confident in the idea that they're going to be doing any good with 1990s X-Men?
No. This is bait. This is a tactic we have seen them beat into the ground over and over again. They try to hook us in with the nostalgia first every time.
This is going to be how the 90s comic or the cartoon should have been in their heads. That's what this is going to be.
Yes. They're reimagining of it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Where everyone is surrogate for gay or black or pick a diversity category.
It goes on to say, notably, while Marvel's official tweet announcing the event drew little criticism, it would Brevort's own promotion of the event, in which he shared the above graphic and teased "Start the clock" that would see fans pour out their voices and their concerns. Unless you retcon the past 10 to 20 years of the X-Men canonical history, so none of it ever happened, or reveal they were all damaged, sinister clones the whole time while the real X-Men were in stasis, it's all pointless. The damage goes back way before the Krakoa era, the terrible Krakoa era. So short of a massive retcon, you've effectively broken these characters for good. Congratulations. That's from Thor.
Well, unfortunately, it's getting to be that way with basically all of comic book continuity at this point. Short of undoing all new, all different, and short of or resetting the clock back to like post-crisis DC, the entire continuity could basically be a fever dream at this point for all anyone cares.
We had a short period with DC where comics were good. They were entertaining. They were doing what they were supposed to do, and then it just fell off the freaking cliff.
And then they followed Marvel down the garden path, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's when they brought over all the writers that had just the writers who just recently tanked Marvel sales during that whole time. That was what, 2016, 2017, and 2018. So I did understand that.
Wow, we have nobody chatting today. I just noticed
the chat is empty.
The chat is we've got viewers. It's just nobody's talking. So, okay. All right.
I would have thought at least my comment about Magneto's war by way of screwing would have gotten comment.
Count Chocula says, Unless Marvel cleans house, ridding themselves of current writers, majority of artists and editors, it'll be nothing but a countdown to more failure. The industry hasn't admitted the problem yet. Until then,
yeah, alas, that is true.
We're getting a lot of people, by the way, a lot of bigger YouTubers than I am, talking about how this next movie they're going to make with Star Wars is going to fail. This is a case where they refuse to listen to the fans. They're doubling down is the problem. Yeah, we're literally telling you this will fail. Stop. We're not going to be a part of it. And look, if you don't like this shit, don't buy this shit. Even if you need to review it, don't buy this shit. Because they literally, Joshua Williams, we did a discussion on him, literally said that angry fans buy more comics. I did a video on it. Check it out. So they believe if they piss you off, they're doing the right thing.
But it's not true. I don't get why he thinks that. Is somebody in corporate telling him this? Can he not go check the numbers out for himself? Well, I like the guy's writing, but he is completely. I'll tell you why. Because it can work in short-term bursts. But as we have recently discovered, for all that it gets the clicks and the views, you know, when DNC first showed up, or when, you know, the Four Horsemen of Comicsgate first showed up, eventually people's rage will bottom out and they'll just go away. They'll just be like, well, this isn't for me anymore, so on to manga, or on to bande dessinée, or on to whatever the next thing is. That anger turns into sadness, and then that turns into apathy real quick.
It turns into apathy. I said that 4 years ago when we were hearing people say, oh, well, it was either Tom Brevoort or Sebas Bolsky, and I had a DM with them, and they said it right there. Well, you know, you guys talk about blah, blah. We get excited, and maybe we'll buy the issues so we could tear them apart. But after a while, and this is me, man, I was the biggest freaking shill. Yeah. And I'm to the point where I don't buy new comics. I can't. How is it that I'm going to spend $5 on a freaking shitty ass comic when I could go into the bin and get Power Man and Iron Fist, or Dazzler, or something along those lines? You know,
90s Valiant.
90s Valiant.
Yeah. You can take $10-11 and get 2 new comics, or you can take those $10-11 and get a trade of something that's actually good.
Or get a collection of 10 to 15 issues. Yeah. Yep. I mean,
so this guy Inhumanation says, the fans made the industry and took it from counterculture to the mainstream. We've watched our beloved heroes get prostituted out for the last 30 years. It's mainly been about 15 years since Iron Man. I think the Marvel Universe really drove it into the ground. And for this to have any chance of recapturing any of the magic, I think maybe a lot of people are in this, where they're just looking at it going, oh, come on. It has to be more than shoehorn DEI. And then let's see. Perch says, watching Twitter fans throw a fit about the end of the Krakoa era after 3 years of comic investment is quite something. I mean, can you blame them? Imagine collecting comics for 3 years and then the tone of the comic changes dramatically. The horror. I don't know if he's on their side or not.
He's being sarcastic, because I think what he's trying to highlight there is a lot of us have been fans of comics for decades, and then all of a sudden the tone of the comics that we like changed dramatically, and yet when we came to the writers and said, hey, you're miswriting my character, stop it, we got the you're toxic, you're evil, you're the devil ad nauseum.
Yeah. I'm going to reach out to Tom Brevoort, see if he'll come on and have an actual conversation. Well, this X-Men graphic sure brought people out in force, dismissed Brevoort. One reminder that I thought wouldn't be necessary. Express whatever opinion you like. But if you show up with homophobia, bigotry, or hate and speak of any sort, it'll be an instant block. Well, that says
how do you define that?
Yeah, and that's
I want a definition. I seriously want a definition, because you're clearly not using the stock standard definition that everyone colloquially uses. You're using some kind of broadened, half-assed critical theory definition where any criticism of writing characters out of character or writing them as too stereotypically gay all of a sudden is homophobic, even if it's a gay person doing it. Hi.
Yep. But yeah, that's the big thing. How are you saying homophobia? Just questioning, saying, hey, why not make a character who isn't Tim Drake gay? I know that's a different company. Why don't Tim Drake has a history? So why not make another character? Why not make?
Why can't the Falcon stay the Falcon as his own character, like he has been for decades?
Yeah. Why not why not push the Falcon as the Falcon? Let him keep his identity. And why the are they treating it like a freaking promotion? Now I get it. Eric makes a good point. If you get the mantle of any hero, the one character that would feel like a promotion would be Captain America. Okay, I understand that, but still, you are
it shouldn't be a mantle, period.
You are putting a black man in his white best friend's clothes and calling it a promotion, like calling it a step up. He's not his own character, but man, if you put him in his white best friend's clothing, then finally he's a character worthy of watching.
And never mind that Captain America should straight up not be a mantle. The whole point of Captain America was that his was the last dose of the super soldier serum, or that version of the super soldier serum.
Anytime you had in the past, anytime you had a takeover, Nightwing taking over for Batman, for example, anytime, it would always be just to prove that the only person who could do the job was the person doing the job. Be it Steve Rogers as Captain America or Bruce Wayne as Batman, that was what it was there for. All right, so unsurprisingly, the Marvel Comics editor condescending flippancy was met not with applause, but rather further criticism of the publisher's disregard for not only its own characters, but its fans. One such frustrated fan was Gavin Knight, who says, how about you tell a good story and stop shoving the message down our throats? In turn, and in doing so, inadvertently confirming fans' fears that the X line was set for even more years of ham-fisted social politics, Brevoort attempted to shut down both Gavin and their like-minded critics by raising the popular yet false belief the X-Men were created as superpower analogs to the 1960s American civil rights. No, false. They weren't. Okay, so here's something you're going to find. When Stan Lee was sunsetting, and for all of us who have grown up with Uncle Stan welcoming us every Saturday morning, face front true believers, for all of us who read those Stan Lee soapboxes, we know that towards the end, he was sunsetting. He was not 100% Stan. You could see it. We felt sorry for him. We know that the people around him were pushing him. They were pushing him to his freaking death. Yep. They were... at one point in time, somebody stole his blood and put it into into comic book ink.
Into pens, yeah. And
let's play devil. Let me finish my thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
Let me finish what I was saying.
Go ahead.
So at the end of his life, Stan Lee said, yes, the X-Men were but before he started sunsetting, for all of time and history that it existed, Stan said, no, that was not my intent. I mean, if you want to make it that fits because, well, the X-Men are about everybody. And that's exactly what the X-Men are about. This dude is fucked in the head if he thinks he's got the X-Men down by saying they've always been, one is MLK and one is... No, you could see him that way, but that's not how they were created. Dumbass.
And let's play devil's advocate for 2 seconds here. Even if that was the inspiration, it isn't, but again, playing devil's advocate, still, neither character is black. Charles Xavier is disabled, and Eric Lensher is a Holocaust survivor. So even in base conception, even if something about the civil rights movement were the inspiration, you changed the characters and you made them individuals with their own individual struggles. And that is the part that deserves to be replicated.
Okay, period. Yeah, we know what the inspiration was. Let me get it. It's I buy into the Doom Patrol story to a degree. Yep. You know, because I don't know if you want to call it flat out fat spied and stole it. Those guys hung out. They talked.
Oh, no. People who worked on Doom Patrol then worked on X-Men.
There you go.
Even I think Jack Kirby was even involved in the original concept. I don't know if it ever saw print, but I know he was in the involved in the original conception of the Doom Patrol.
Right.
Yeah. All right. And I'm not saying that it was the inspiration. I'm just saying, even by their own logic, even if it was, they're separate characters with their own individual struggles. So that's the part that we want to replicate or preserve. not what might have been the inspiration in some far-flung alternate future or past.
Okay, so it goes on to say, as noted above, despite this read of the X-Men having become a recent element of the team's pop culture identity, it was not a part of their original conception, as explained by the team's co-creator, Stan Lee, during 2004 interview given to the Archive of American Television's Lisa Terada for group's Living Television Collection. Well, there's a funny story. I think I already have it so you guys can hear.
About X-Men and how
Can you?
how that came.
Oh, the X-Men.
It's low, but I can hear it.
You know, everything is a funny story. After I had done the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Spider-Man, I think the X-Men came next. The X-Men and one other, I think Daredevil, they're about the same time. Anyway, I wanted to do another group of superheroes. But I was getting tired now of figuring out how they get their superpowers. I couldn't have everybody bitten by a radioactive spider or exposed to a gamma ray explosion. And I took the cowardly way out. I said to myself, why don't I just say they're mutants? They were born that way. We all know there are mutants in real life. There's a frog with 5 legs, things like that. So I won't have to think of new excuses. I'll get as many as I want, and yeah, he's a mutant, that's all. So, okay, I had the idea, and I made up some characters that I loved. And I went to my boss, Martin. He was still publishing it.
Martin Goodman.
So I have an idea for a book called The Mutants. I wanted to call it The Mutants. He said, it sounds like a good idea, Stan, but, you know, nobody's going to know what a mutant is. Our readers wouldn't understand. Get another name. Well, I felt he was wrong, but what the hell, he was the boss. So I went back, and I gave it some thought, and I thought, they have extra power. They were led by a guy named Professor Xavier. So I said, well, I'll call them the X-Men, even though one was a girl. And I went back to Martin. I said, hey, all right, how about this name, the X-Men? He said, yeah, that sounds fine. Use that. So as I walked out of his office, I thought to myself, if a reader isn't going to know what a mutant is, how is the reader going to know what an X-Man is? But I didn't want any trouble. I had my name, and I just let it go. But I often felt I don't understand the workings of the executive mind.
Nobody does. They don't even stand. That's the thing.
Some craft questions, and if you can just.
Okay, I guess I thought that was going to explain what we were talking about. I don't know why Bounding and Comics left that part in there if you're not going to address what we're talking about.
They probably just didn't want to cut off the clip.
There you go. So yeah. Let's see. Why don't you just say they were born that way? So when I don't. Okay. All right. I thought he would talk about the fact that, yeah, back in the day, he never said that. He had never said the X-Men had been coasting for years on a tank that was filled by Claremont and Byrne, maybe Morrison. I got to tell you, the last time, I mean, I read that House of M, but the last time I was paying attention to the X-Men, about 1995. I've read here and there, like I read Hoxpox, but I read the House of M. I read Decimation, and I was like, it just hasn't gotten any better, has it? As a matter of fact, it got worse. I read Avengers versus X-Men. That was one of the worst comics I've ever read. Everybody was out of character. Everybody was a piece of shit. It's serious. Like, no good characters in the X-Men in the years from 2000 to 2010 or 11, whenever Avengers X-Men. It's like, no, this is a ball of suck now. How is anybody in reading the X-Men? They came up with Hoxpox. Oh, you got to read it. It's awesome. You got to check this out. It's like, what the fuck? They made Myra McTaggart into a villain? The fuck is going on with the X-Men? So I read a little bit more. Okay, what's going on with the X-Men on the island? They're freaking immortal. They can't die. Like, literally, you just strip away any consequence. So, like, there's no tension to the X-Men now? The fuck is going on? You made them into villains. That's been my reaction for the past 25 years of X-Men.
28 if we go by 95, because that was the year I was born.
Talking about when I was reading, because I stopped reading it and then I would pick up a story here, a story there. It's like,
okay, well, yeah, you mentioned 1995, so I was just going from where you started.
But this comes from a time. I mean, we had the Dave Cockrum era. We had the Claremont and Byrne era. We had the Silvestri stuff, the Jim Lee stuff. We were getting some awesome in X-Men. And then it's like they booted Claremont and it hit a goddamn wall like a 40-year-old slut ready to marry. It just did not freaking work, man. It was
the violinist started to play on the deck of the Titanic at that point.
Yeah, it just, nah, man, it just freaking hit the wall. It was so bad after that. But still, it doesn't change the fact that Tom Brevoort, most of the people writing and drawing X-Men, just don't get it. I mean, seriously, just don't get it.
They're obliged not to get it, otherwise they'd be fired.
Yeah,
I was just gonna
that's
say
the sad
that.
thing.
Yeah, I think they do a lot of this to protect their careers and protect their clout, protect their legacies. You know.
Yeah, I think definitely. I don't know how deep it would go. Like, how interested in Marvel Comics is Bob Iger, who is deep into DEI?
Yeah.
And
well, they use the comics as an IP for them, and it's backfiring on them because for some reason, instead of adapting the 30-odd years between the Infinity War peak and the All New, All Different, they jumped right to All New, All Different, and it backfired on them horribly, as everyone knew it would.
I don't think they should ignore the Silver Age, tell you the truth, especially with Marvel. With DC, I can understand they might want to and just kind of stick with the post-crisis stuff. But the fact that they skipped over an entire Marvel history to jump into Kamala Khan and all, and I'm a person who liked the Ms. Marvel show, but they decided to jump into the last 5 or 6 years way too fucking fast. And it did take 15 years to get here.
Honestly, if I were DC, and I know I'm a broken record on this point, go with the Golden Age, because that's the only place that Marvel can't follow you to. Because DC's presence was much stronger in the Golden Age than Timely, which eventually became Marvel. And the only character they would want to adapt from their Golden Age is Captain America, and they've already done it. So DC, do a Justice Society series of movies, do the same, individual movies and then team build up thing. And then if you want to do the Justice League after that, do a Passing of the Torch story arc.
If you do a Dr. Fate in World War II, would you still have Pierce Brosnan as the same age?
Matt Smith is who I would cast as a younger Kent Nelson.
Glenzer is saying they're saying black people don't deserve a tailor-made suit they can only buy off the rack, and then he used a suit rack at that, talking about the Captain America thing. And he's also saying, so if it had been Professor Xavier Charles, they would have been called the Seamen.
Everyone has made that dirty joke. I think even Big Bang Theory made that joke at one point.
There you go. Hello to MK. What's up? Englatine, if you like Ms. Marvel, you're going to love What If Season 2. Only if they write her as well and they have the same actress. I'm telling it, to me, that actress, the young lady who plays Ms. Marvel, is about 80% of it. She loves what she's doing. She loves being a part of it, and it comes off the screen. She is having a blast, and she wants you to have a blast. When I watched the Marvels, I thought it was it ended up being the opposite of what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be some decent action scenes with a whole bunch of cringe where they're sitting around girl talking, but it was completely the opposite. Anytime they were together, just being the characters, I actually enjoyed it. Anytime they went to the action, it was just
it's because the writers have no interest in and don't know how to write action, whereas Iman Vellani is a personable person. So,
yeah, but she carries the story, and she rubbed off on the other two, and they actually ended up having chemistry, and they were fun.
Even though the plot made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, it was when they actually went to the action where it's like, okay, we've seen this before. Fuck this. But I am going to do a binge watch review of What If 2. Kind of like I did the Justice League. That video was me. I watched a segment. I came back and reviewed it. Watched a segment, came back and reviewed it. I'm going to do the same thing with What If number 2. I have to wait until the party I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I can hear it a lot. So I'm waiting until the party is over next door. They're having a backyard party with a family. It's an Hispanic family. So there's 100 of them.
I'm not getting any noise on my end, but I don't know about the audience.
Yeah, I can't hear it either.
Okay, cool. Maybe I'll start this. I'll start it up after, but yeah. Anywho, we've got another one to talk about. Now, this one's going to get serious, kids. This one is going to get to the point where